my experience with autism in the workplace. Now, when I was working for other people, I didn't know I was autistic. So a lot of my experiences will have just been down to me being me, but not really understanding myself at all and thinking that I was a little bit odd, perhaps. But what's your experience in the workplace? I've always found that I've always been super good at interviews and actually getting the job, because you can prepare for an interview, can't you? You can research about the company, you can research about techniques, and to be honest, that's always been the easy part. I'm not saying I haven't got nervous, but there's never been a job that I've interviewed for that I haven't been offered. I haven't always gone for it, but the interview process is the easy part for me, in my experience. Then you actually have got the job. Now, sometimes it's been a job that I've actually really wanted and I've gone in and, you know, it's worked out for a period of time, perhaps in, you know, some years. Other times I've gone in and very, very quickly I've realised, oh, no, this is not for me at all. And often it's not because the people are nasty or anything like that. It's because things that have been laid out, and as an autistic person, we like things to be precise. And if you say this is how something is going to be and it is completely different, we're not prepared for that, and it throws us through a loop. It certainly throws me through a loop. So when I've been either starting a job or even been in a job and then things change quite dramatically without any build up to this, you know, I've often found that too much, and I can then become quite disillusioned and argumentative, and I can go from being like a super good employee to a really not very good employee who just doesn't care anymore. And that's kind of how I've gone with jobs throughout my life. I'm in my 40s now, and I run my own non-profit, and I do the admin for my husband's business, so I don't have a boss, and that totally works for me. And previous to having my son, who I also homeschool, I was self-employed. So once I found self-employment, that was just everything to me, because I could work from home, I could control my workload, I could control my clients, and that was just so much easier. But yeah, the workplace is such a challenging one, isn't it? And when things change, that for me used to be such a trigger for me leaving or becoming argumentative or becoming difficult, you know, a bit like a petulant kid. I didn't like that at all. But I always found that people were so confusing. I didn't like the workplace sort of etiquette and the sort of the backbiting and the clickiness of people. I found that really difficult. I also really struggled with the lighting in offices and fluorescent lighting, and that used to make me ever so ill. And I used to have to be off work a lot with that. And it's not something that I really understood. And no one really cared. Everyone was just like, well, what do you mean? And now I know as an autistic person that I have such huge sensitivity to light. That's like my biggest sensory thing is light, even more so than sound, and I'm super sound sensitive. But the lighting of a place, if I have to be in a place with those fluorescent lights, I find it ever so difficult. And at that point in my life, it was such a big thing that it would trigger off massive vestibular episodes that could have me out of action for weeks or months. So being in those environments was very difficult, and the understanding that people had was very difficult. And I didn't know I was autistic at the time, but even just taking away autism, just as a human being, someone being that ill, and the simplicity of turning off a light above them, but they won't do that because it's company policy that all the lights have to be on and it has to be the same for everyone. Well, you know, hello, we're not all the same. So some people won't be bothered by the lights, some people are, but you know, and this is why I struggled in the workplace. And if you do struggle, I would really recommend, if there's something you can do, in a self-employed way, even if you just start it small on the side so that you can slowly move on to something else, then I really wholeheartedly recommend that. My husband is autistic too, and again, he didn't discover that till a late age, and he's been self-employed for over 20 years, and it's been the only way he's been able to cope, because previous jobs, again, similar to me, he would become very, very argumentative and very, very disruptive, because it was just too much. It's too much, and if it's too much for you, it's got to be okay. You've got to understand that not everyone's the same, and that if you are autistic and have particularly like sensory issues or anything like that, it can be very, very difficult in workplace environments, and that's before you've even got the social aspect of it. So don't worry, you're not alone. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure where this video is going. I just wanted to mention that, you know, I found it really difficult. It was great, easy even to get the job, but once you're in the job, and it can be a real shitter as well if it's a job you really enjoy and then something massively shifts or changes, and then you don't enjoy it anymore, and it's like, why can't everything have just stayed the same? I had a job that I got on right with most of the time in the City of London years and years ago now, and I had some good friends there, but it just changed all of a sudden. The office building was going to change, and it was going to be like in a completely different other part of London that wasn't near where I lived, and it was like, that was not the only change, but there were lots of different changes coming in, and it really didn't suit me, and it was such a shame, because I think had that not happened, I would have stayed, and I was an asset to the company, but I became a non-asset to the company, you know, being sick and, well, phoning in sick even if I wasn't sick, and just totally uninterested after that, because it changed so much from when I sort of agreed to work there, you know, when I applied for the job. But anyway, that's my experience with a workplace, and I've certainly found self-employment to be the way forward. What's your experience? Are you self-employed? Have you been lucky enough to find a workplace that really, really suits you as an autistic person? Excuse me. Have you got understanding colleagues and a boss, or have you gone down the self-employed route and found that that's really the only way you can cope? Or are you unemployed and unable to find either a self-employed role or perhaps a position within a workplace that can cater for your needs and accommodations? Yeah, I'd really like to know your experience with the workplace, see if it's similar to mine in any way. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.